Greetings, everybody, everyone from the Kingdom of England, Empire of Albion. It is I, Archbishop Belmont from the Noble House of Belmont, as well from the Third Temple English Church of England, the King's Bench, which is headed by our King, King Clifford Jefferson from the Royal House of Plantagenet, as well as sitting right next to the King's Bench, as well as my co-assistant, co-adjutor, Archbishop Andre Murphy from the Noble House of Murphy. And then we also have our brother Esquire Burgess and the other members who are part of the Third Temple English Church of England, who hasn't realized that they're going to be part of the Third Temple English Church of England. So I'm saying this for the future, because once those people, or once those heirs, once they realize who they are, start getting themselves right, coming back to be clean and righteous and pure through noble deeds, as well as acts, start stepping in the proper capacity and start helping clean our home up, which is called the planet Albion in our understanding, but your understanding, you call it planet Earth. All right, so we're going to go ahead and talk about this very important monumental case that's dealing with the contract clause here, or in your territory, what you call the United States. And this is going to help bring the understanding you need to know how this is still the Kingdom of Great Britain, or the Empire of Great Britain, which is also can be called the Kingdom of England, Empire of England, which also could be called the Kingdom of Albion, or Empire of Albion, which also could be called Planet Albion, or what you call Planet Earth, or you can call Jersey. As you see, you have to know this. But anyway, I digress. Let's go ahead and get started, because we want to keep these bills short, so that way the people can go and listen to them as they need to, and they're not sitting and trying to get the gist of what we're trying to say. Especially right now, we're at an emergency where people need to get this information, why they have the ability to. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Once again, today is December 11th, 2971 Berber calendar, which is 2021 Gregorian calendar. If you haven't been following us to understand the reason why we utilize the Berber calendar, we're Anglo-Saxon Berbers, Englishmen, Albion seeds, to bring to a nutshell, because we can go on and try to tie in all of the names who have been called, but that's not important right now. The most important part that we're going to be dealing with from here on out is who you are today, with the information that you have at your disposal, before you start getting stuck into all these different schools and realms of thought. So you use English as your language. You have English, French, Spanish, whatever surnames. And if you're in the so-called United States, you need to know about so-called Americans' origin, or in their history, which goes pretty much back to the history and the time of the Kingdom of England. So if you don't know about the Kingdom of England, you don't know about the history and the laws, then this is the perfect time for you to be able to get a lot of the gems that you need. But for you to be able to trust us, you need to hear from those who actually still honor us, because they are the trustees. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, Dartmouth College versus Woodward. All right, in this case, it was a landmark decision. Hold on one second. Okay, so back to it. So like it says, the trustees of Dartmouth College versus Woodward. It was a landmark decision in the United States corporate law from the United States Supreme Court, dealing with the application of the contracts clause of the United States Constitution to private corporations. The case arose when the president of Dartmouth College was deposed by its trustees leading to the New Hampshire legislature attempting to force the college to become a public institution and thereby place the ability to appoint trustees in the hands of the governor of New Hampshire. The Supreme Court upheld the sanctity of the original charter of the college, which predated the creation of the state. All right, so this was an issue because, once again, this is the state coming in and trying to impose their force over something that predates them, that they had no authority over, which was the college. And now we look on the right, it says, the charter granted by the British Crown to the trustees of Dartmouth College in New Hampshire in the year 1769 is a contract within the meaning of that clause of the Constitution of the United States, Article 1, subsection 10, which declares that no state shall make any law impairing the obligation of contracts. The charter was not dissolved by the Revolution. So this saying that the contract clause of the United States protects any contract that predates its creation, and that no state itself that came afterwards alter. So anybody, once again, as we showing us as being heirs from Great Britain, Kingdom of England, Empire of Albion, however you want to call it, we're still underneath the protection of those charters. All right, let's get to it. Down to the bottom before we can go ahead and end this. Background: 1769, King George III of Great Britain granted a charter to Dartmouth College. This document spelled out the purpose of the school, set up the structure to govern it, and gave land to the college. In 1816, over 30 years after the conclusion of the American Revolution, the legislature of New Hampshire altered Dartmouth's charter in order to reinstate the college. The post president placed the ability to appoint positions in the hands of the governor, add new members to the boards of trustees, and create a state board of visitors who veto power over trustee decisions. This effectively converted the school from a private to a public institution. The college's book of records, corporate seal, and other corporate property were removed. The trustees of the college objected and sought to have the actions of the legislature declared unconstitutional. The trustees retained Dartmouth alumnus Daniel Webster, a New Hampshire native, who would later become a U.S. Senator for Massachusetts and Secretary of State under President Millard Fillmore, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about that unless you want to read it in your own time. The judgment, this is the key. The decision handed down on February 2nd, 1819, ruled in favor of the college and invalidated the act of New Hampshire legislature. So they're telling you that, once again, the states do not have any power or authority outside which they have the ability that was given from the Constitution. All right, and saying the Constitution did not tell them that they can cancel or alter another contract that predates its creation. So once in turn, once again, it says, allow Dartmouth to continue as a private institution and take back its buildings, seal, and charter. The majority opinion of the court was written by John Marshall. The opinion reaffirmed Marshall's belief in the sanctity of a contract that's also seen in Fletcher v. Peck, check that out, as necessary to the functioning of a republic, in the absence of a royal rule, contracts rule. And royal rule is still here because we have our king. The court ruled that the college's corporate charter qualified as a contract between private parties, the king, and the trustees, with which the legislature could not interfere. Even though the United States were no longer royal colonies, the contract was still valid because the Constitution said that a state could not pass laws to impair a contract. The fact that the government had commissioned the charter did not transform the school into a civil institution. Chief Justice Marshall's opinion emphasized that the term contract referred to transactions involving individual property rights, not to the political relations between the government and its citizens. So there you have it. Once again, contracts rule, and the contract that rules all is the one that predates the so-called creation of the states, which is the charters. The great charters going back to Great Britain, which we can call the Kingdom or the Empire of Albion or the Kingdom Empire of England. So for those who are ready to continue to keep learning and building over here on the King's Bench in the Third Temple English Church of England, come on now, we're ready. So do your due diligence. Make sure you're keeping yourself clean with fresh water, getting out there, getting your sun, and like I said, and do good deeds and good acts. Peace.